Hello, and welcome to The Man Who Knows Everything, which is me, live on English Street Art's Facebook page every weekday at 1 o'clock. The way this works is every day I come on and I give you a topic, and you've got 24 hours to find out 10 facts about that subject, and then I'll appear the next day and give you my 10 facts. It works a bit like bingo. I'll give a fact, and if you've got it on your list, you can cross it off. And if at the end of that you've got a fact that I don't give, you've technically defeated the man who knows everything. But as we know, it's just a fact that I ain't given, rather than a fact that I don't know. So, yesterday, I set you the topic of the weather, and I gave you 10 facts about the weather. We have had a couple of other comments in the comment section underneath the videos on Facebook from Alfie, who was telling us that he found it really funny because he was doing a lot of research about the names of different kit to measure the weather, and he found it really funny that the thing that records the sun is called a sun recorder. So all of the others have got pretty technical names, but the thing that measures the amount of sun is called a sun recorder. And also, he pointed out that in Norse mythology, they believed that the god of thunder and lightning was Thor. And obviously, if you've seen any of the Marvel films, he is been kind of adapted into a superhero based on that Norse mythology. So thank you for those comments, Alfie. And as we all know, it's stuff that I knew already. I just mention it. So I then set you the task of finding out 10 facts all to do with bees. So here are my 10 facts. Get ready to cross them off your list. So fact number one, it's quite a broad one, is that honeybees are really important to our ecosystem here on Earth. They're responsible for pollinating different fruits, different flowers, and different vegetables. So without the bees, we wouldn't have any of that. That means that they help other plants to grow, because when the bee flies into a flower to collect the nectar to take back to the hive, they pick up the pollen on their legs, and then they fly to another plant, and that's when that pollen gets dropped off at another flower. So they cross-pollinate all the different plants, and it allows those plants to grow seeds and grow fruit, some of which we harvest and eat. So things like apples, oranges, bananas, pretty much any fruit or vegetable needs to be pollinated by a creature, and it's usually the honeybee. So they're vital to our survival as humans. So bees play a really important part in our ecosystem. Fact number two, I've mentioned it kind of already, is the fact that bees live in hives or colonies. And in those colonies, all different bees have got different jobs. So it's like a little society, really. So there's the queen bee, who she kind of runs the whole hive, and it's her job to lay the eggs that will spawn the hive's next generation of bees. The queen also produces chemicals that kind of dictate the behavior of the other bees. So she emanates different chemicals, and depending on what pheromone she's putting out, the bees will do different things. So there's one queen bee that dictates the behaviour of the rest of the hive, and it's her responsibility to lay eggs. Then there are also the worker bees, and the worker bees are all female, and their jobs are to forage for food and get pollen and nectar from flowers. They build the hive, they protect the hive, they clean and circulate the air by beating their wings as well. And workers are the only bees that most people see ever flying around outside the hive. So if you've come in contact with the bee, it's probably a female, and it's probably a worker bee, because all the others pretty much stay inside the hive. I find that quite an interesting fact for you, I bet, don't you? Then there are the drones, and the drones are the male bees, and it's their job to mate with the new queen. So several hundred drones live inside a hive during the spring and the summer. But come the winter, the hive goes into survival mode, and all of the drones are kicked out. I know, they kick all the men out down there. Fact number three is the thing that they're most famous for. Of course, honeybees are most famous for honey. But they produce honey as part of their food stores for the winter, so they actually live off it themselves. But luckily for us, they actually produce far more honey than they could ever consume. So it's around about 2 to 3 times more than they actually need, which is why we're able to enjoy it ourselves. It's a bit of a tasty treat. Get yourself some honey on toast, or maybe stick it in some porridge. It's delicious. Fact number 4 is that when if a queen bee dies, the female workers will create a new queen bee by selecting one of the young larvae, so the newly hatched baby bees. They'll select one of them and they'll feed it a special food called royal jelly. And this allows and enables that larva to develop into a fertile queen. So that's how they choose a new queen if the queen bee should die. So they pick a really tiny baby bee, feed it royal jelly, and then it grows up to be a very fertile queen. Fact number 5 is about their incredible flying ability, because obviously you've probably seen them buzzing around, but bees fly at a speed of around 25 kilometers per hour, and they beat their wings 200 times a second, which is a phenomenal speed to be able to fly about the place. And so they fly at 25 kilometers per hour and beat the wings 200 times per second. Fact number 6 is that each bee has got an incredible sense of smell, and that's so that they can sniff out all the delicious nectar in the flowers when the flowers are producing the perfume, so to attract the bees to them, because the flowers know they want to get pollinated. And the only way they can do that is by attracting the bees. So they put out a delicious perfume, and bees have got 170 odorant receptors on their bodies, which means they've got a serious sense of smell. They use it as obviously to sniff out the flowers, but they use it to communicate with the hive as well as recognizing different flowers when they're looking for food. So they use their sense of smell so they can sniff the queen's pheromones as well, and she'll dictate what they want them to do, but they can find the flowers as well. Fact number 7 is that the worker bees live only for 5 or 6 weeks. That's it. So the worker bees, the ones flying around collecting all the pollen and nectar and bringing it back to the hive, they only live for about 5 or 6 weeks. And during this time, each worker bee will produce around about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. Which ain't an awful lot when you think about it. So those very busy worker bees will produce 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in their lifetime. Fact number 8 is also about the lifespan, and that is that the queen can live for up to 5 years. So it's quite a difference between the queen and the workers now. She's obviously busiest in the summer months when she can lay up to 2,500 eggs. So she's a busy old queen, ain't she? So she can live for up to 5 years, but the workers live for 5 to 6 weeks. It's quite a difference. Fact number 9 is that honeybees are actually brilliant dancers, because they share information about where there's food sources, and they perform something called the waggle dance to each other. So they'll return to the hive when they've been to find some flowers and stuff, and they'll tell all their friends about it by doing a little waggle dance, and it's like a kind of figure of 8, and it waggles its body to be able to tell them which direction to fly in to go and find that food source, which is pretty cool, eh? So maybe you can have a go at having your own waggle dance. Maybe think about something you might want to communicate and try and do it through the medium of dance. Have a bit of a waggle, treat yourself. Fact number 10, my final fact about bees, is that I mentioned this in the previous one on Earth Day, is that sadly over the past 15 years, which is relatively recent history, colonies of bees have been declining and disappearing, and we don't really know why that's been happening. So it's been referred to as colony collapse disorder. Billions of honeybees over the world have been leaving their hives and never come back. So in some regions, up to 90% of their bees have disappeared. So it's really important we do everything we can to try and protect those bees, because as I've said, they're vitally important to our ecosystem. And you can help. You can plant some things by things like lavender, really fragrant flowers, leaving dandelions and stuff out. So rather than uprooting them, I know we see them as a weed, but bees need them. So leave them alone, let them stay put. So those are my 10 facts all about bees. I hope you enjoyed that. If you've got a fact that I dare give, then stick it in the comments below. Get an adult to help you. And if you've got a topic that you want to challenge us on, you can also stick that in the comments below. Tomorrow's topic is going to be the NHS, because I expect you've heard a lot of people talking about the NHS. So I want to hear 10 facts all about the NHS. And don't forget, it is a Thursday, so at 8 o'clock, we're going to be clapping for the NHS and all of our frontline workers and our essential key workers. So, in honour of them, tomorrow's subject is the NHS. So you might have lots of knowledge about it already. You might have some books at home. You can look up some facts about the NHS, or you can get an adult to help you look it up online. So I'll be back tomorrow with my 10 facts all about the NHS. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow at 1. Ta-ra a bit. Stay home, stay safe, stay creative.